Hey everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am here with a video tutorial for a very special event, Layton's Legacy Blog Hop, Card Drive, and Fundraiser for NICU parents. And this has been coordinated by my friend Leah Lawson, and I am so happy to be a part of it. So first up, let's take a look at the mood board that was sent out by Leah to inspire all of our projects. Now, I'm going to be basing my card project on this mood board, and if you would like to create some cards with this mood board as your inspiration and donate them for the card drive portion of this very special event, you can head on over to my blog. I'll have more information over there about not only the card drive, but how you can donate, as well as all of the prizes that are involved. So I'm starting with the My Favorite Things Wild Woodland stamp set, and I'm stamping this bear onto some Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock, and I am using some Hero Arts Intense Black ink because I'm going to be doing some Copic coloring. Now, I knew that when I created this card, I wanted to keep it rather simple so that I could create more than one card for the card drive. Now, while I do my Copic coloring and I'm keeping this rather simple with some warm gray markers, I'm going to talk to you about why this event is so near and dear to my heart. When I found out Leah was doing this event, I actually contacted her immediately and I said, what can I do to get involved? For those of you who don't know, I'm a registered nurse and I work in the NICU, the pediatric, and the postpartum units of my local hospital. So when I work in the NICU, I am confronted with parents who are in a very challenging and stressful, worrisome time of their life. And I think it's wonderful that Leah is putting together this card drive and fundraiser in order to bring a little bit of encouragement to these parents that are facing a very difficult and sometimes life-threatening situation with their newborns. So I am thrilled to be a part of this, and I am looking forward to this being a huge success. Now, if you want to read a little bit more about Leah's story, and more specifically Layton's story, and why Leah has put this blog hop and fundraiser and card drive together in his memory, be sure to visit my blog because I will have a link to Leah's blog over there, and she tells her complete story and how she's honoring the memory of her sweet little boy Layton, who was born prematurely. So you can see here, I'm just finishing up the coloring on my bear, and I colored 5 of these bears in total. Like I said, I wanted to be able to have several cards to send to Leah for the card drive portion of this event. And I'm keeping my Copic coloring really simple. I'm using W0, W1, W3, and W5. And I am using the W5 only on the body portion of this bear, and I'm keeping his face a little bit lighter, so I only used up to the W3 on the face portion. That just made sure that his face was kind of in the forefront, and it stayed a whole lot lighter than the rest of his body that I'm coloring here. And I'm just doing some really simple shading. I started with my lightest color, I added my medium shade, added a little bit of the dark, and then I went back to the medium and the light to blend those all out. So once I have all of my bears colored, and I think it took me about 30 minutes to color all 5 bears, so not too bad, I'm going to go ahead and die cut these using the coordinating die and my Big Shot die cutting machine. I'm just going to run that through really quickly, and you can see I've held the die in place with a little bit of delicate surface painter's tape. Now, after I got these cut out, I wanted to blend out a couple areas, so I just went back and did that. And now I'm going to start the mass production process of these cards. I have a little bit of pattern paper here from Pink Paislee, and I'll be sure to link that not only in the description at YouTube, but over at my blog as well. And I'm cutting that into 1/4-inch strips, and I'm also cutting this pool colored paper into 1/4-inch strips. And finally, I have some Oyster gray cardstock from the Essentials by Ellen line, and I'm cutting that down to about 3/8 inch. And I'm going to use these little gray strips as my sentiment banners on the front of my card. So I have a little sentiment here. It says, "Here's a hug," and I'm inking that up in some VersaFine Onyx Black pigment ink, and I'm stamping that onto my little sentiment strips that I've created here. And I'm going to do all of one step at one time. So I did all my cutting at once, I did all my stamping at once, and now I'm moving on to the card base itself. If you noticed in the mood board, there was the kind of yellows and grays, and there was a little bit of pool, but there was also like this gold color. And I knew for sure I wanted to bring that into my card because No card is a card of Carissa's without a little bit of shine and a little bit of gold. Am I right? So I am using this Wonky backdrop stamp from the Essentials by Ellen line. It's the little kind of solid area with the stars at the top. And I've double stamped it in Versamark ink onto a A2 size card base. It's a top folding base. And I've created that card base out of some linen cardstock. So that's why I went ahead and double stamped it. Then I added some Ranger sticky embossing powder and heated it just until it was melted. And now I'm taking this over to a box where I have some Tonic Nuvo Gold Gilding Flakes. And I'm pressing that onto that stamped area where all that sticky embossing powder is. And I'm making sure that I cover that entire sticky area. I'm really pressing those gold flakes into that sticky area. And when I get it all pressed in really nice, I'm going to take a stiff brush and kind of brush away the excess. And this reveals those stars that are at the top of this pattern. They're kind of a little more subdued than if you were to stamp it in just a regular stamping ink. But I think this was a really fun texture and kind of gave it like a really cool antique look. And because I stamped it on some linen cardstock, you are going to see a little bit of that linen texture coming through that gold flaking or gold leafing, I guess it is, that I did. So now that I have the backdrop kind of created there, I'm going to go ahead and cut down these strips. I'm just cutting angles into the colored pieces of paper, and on that sentiment strip, I cut it into a little banner end. And I'm just gonna kind of flare these out. So I'm just taking the sentiment strip and I'm making sure that one's straight. And the other two I'm kind of crisscrossing, and that kind of reminded me of like the arrows and the geometric kind of shapes that were in the mood board. Now I'm also taking this little triangle stamp. This is from the Essentials by Ellen Wonky backdrop stamp set as well. And I'm gonna add a few of these triangles kind of over to the side. This is just adding a little bit more color, a little more pattern, kind of a grounding area for the grouping that I'm creating here. And you can see I'm just stacking my bear right on top of that little strip grouping that I've created. I adhered him on top with a little bit of foam adhesive, and I did put some foam adhesive behind the sentiment strip itself. So the bear sits a little bit higher. He's on 2 levels of foam adhesive, and the sentiment strip is on 1 layer of foam adhesive. And I went ahead and placed that onto my card front and then just trimmed off the ends there. And I finished my card off with a little bit of natural kind of burlap twine tied across the top. So here's all 5 cards finished and created and ready to go to Leah for this card drive. I'm super excited to send these to her. And all of the colors and the imagery and the patterns and the textures were all inspired by that mood board that she provided for us. So here's a look at the completed card projects, and I really love the way that this card turned out. I love all the different colors and textures and that fun effect that you get with those gilding flakes on the background there. Now I used the Here's a Hug sentiment on this card because I really wanted it to be an encouraging kind of sentiment for these NICU parents. But if you were to change that out to Welcome Baby or Happy Birthday, you could definitely use this for another occasion as well. As always, I will have links to the featured products in the description at YouTube, but head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. It will be linked below. Over there, I'll have more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies used in these projects, as well as a lot of information about how you can get involved and prizes that you can win for this Layton's Legacy event. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of my card making or paper crafting video tutorials. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are absolutely my favorite. If you want to subscribe to my channel, be sure to click that button on the left-hand side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.